Thank you so much, Hunter. It was my pleasure to serve. All right, guys, we got 30 minutes, so let's jump into it. We first want to talk about, why do we need to make a business case? Why can't we just jump in, tell me where to post my jobs, tell me what career fairs I need to go to, and then, voila, we have a veteran recruiting program. That's what's going to bite you in the rear end. If that's the approach that you're taking in terms of how do we get started with a veteran recruiting initiative. If you're not tying this talent acquisition strategy, this veteran talent acquisition strategy, to your company's overall business strategy, the business needs of the organization, and the overall talent strategy, that is a recipe to get your budget cut, to get your headcount cut, or to never even establish either of those two items before you get out the gate. So you'll always be the first thing on the chopping block when they're looking for budget to cut, or if they're looking to move people around and then the program dies without it. So we really do want to start with the business case. And so what are the business reasons we would want to install a veteran recruiting program? Again, you have to go back to what your company's business needs are. The top four needs that tend to come up over and over again, and again, your mileage may differ, but chances are many of these are appropriate, and then you may be able to add a few more. But the number one reason companies have any kind of a talent initiative is because there aren't enough skilled people ready and applying for the jobs that you have. So you cannot hire enough people to manage what you need to address growth, to address, a merger and acquisition, to address any kind of thing that your company is going through. So you don't have enough candidates with the right skills applying for these roles. That was number two. They don't have the right skills. Maybe you're getting a lot of applicants, but they don't have the skills that you're looking for. So it's kind of a mismatch between volume and actual need. The third thing is you may be getting people applying for the jobs, but they're not willing to relocate. They're not interested in being located where your jobs may happen to be. Maybe you're in a very expensive area. Maybe you're in a rural area, and you're having a hard time finding candidates with the right skills who are willing to work in the areas where you have them. And then the last challenge, and again, you may have others on top of this, but these by and large hit everybody, is a lack of leadership. A lot of times we in organizations try to grow our own talent. And so we're looking for high potentials to be able to step into, taking leadership and supervisory roles and be able to grow our talent within. Now, the challenge is, of course, in how we grow that talent and where do we find the high potentials for this. So the good news is if any of those four are things that your company is facing right now in terms of being a talent challenge, military talent can address those issues. Our military members, roughly 81% of the jobs we have in the military have a direct or very close civilian equivalent. And a lot of people don't know that. If you don't know anything about the military, then what you think we do is what you've seen on TV or on the nightly news. You kick down doors, you blow things up, you run it over with a tank. That's great. Thank you for your service. Veterans Day is 2 days from now. And if I ever need a door kicked in, you're going to be the first person I'd call. But I'm looking for a phlebotomist. I'm looking for an HR professional. I'm looking for a nurse. I'm looking, whatever it is that you're looking for, you're thinking that it's not available, excuse me, in the military. Surprise, we have all of those roles and many, many more in the military that are very closely aligned to what you're looking for. We may call it something different. The training may look a little bit different, but the knowledge and skills and experience are definitely there. Our candidates not only have the right skills, there's a large volume of military members leaving the service every year. So roughly 220,000 service members leave the military every year. And this is normal turnover. Most people don't make the military a career. A career is 20 years in the military. Like 20% of the population that joins right out of high school, right out of college, will ever make it to a full 20+ career. The other 80% are going to leave within like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years. So we want to take advantage of that volume and know that that volume is available to us every single year. And how do we design our strategies around that volume? But in addition to the transitioning military population, those just coming off of active duty, we have a National Guard and Reserve population out there that does military part-time, does something else full-time. They're either students or they might be working for someone else, or they're looking to upgrade their skills and get into different types of positions. We have military spouses. We have veterans with disabilities who would love an opportunity to be able to work for you. And then we have just the general veteran population on top of all of that. So people who have been out of the military perhaps for a couple of years, maybe 10 years, 20 years, who are also, bring the same, ethics and training and skills and knowledge and integrity with them to a civilian workplace. So we can capitalize on any of these demographics within the military population. Not all would necessarily be appropriate for, whatever it is that you're trying to hire, but many of those subcategories are going to be appropriate. So first we have to figure out, which ones would be the most appropriate for what you're trying to do. Our military candidates, those that are coming directly off of active duty, so that 200,000 plus that leave every year, come with a free relocation benefit. So we can take advantage of that as employers by saying, if we're talking to that service member early enough before they leave the service, then we can say, okay, your skills are exactly, I need an electrician, I need a maintenance operator, I need someone who can drive heavy equipment, but the job is in California or the job is in Nebraska, and you're talking to them in Texas. They have a relocation benefit that can get them to where they need to be. But you need to be talking to them early and often before they leave the military. If you're waiting and you're talking to them when they're 30 days away from leaving the service, chances are you're not going to be able to take advantage of that because they've probably already decided what they're going to do with that relocation benefit. So that's what we advise our clients to do, is you really have got to get your marketing game very, very strong. It needs to be repetitive, it needs to be early, and it needs to be consistent so that you're building the pipeline that you need to get the candidates where you need them to be. And then lastly, on the lack of leadership piece, our service members are trained from day one, the day you join the military, all the way until the end of however long you end up spending in the military, on how to be a leader. Everyone gets trained on how to be a leader. It's not like, oh, you've been in 5 years, now we're going to train you on how to be a leader. No, everyone gets it from day one. There's additional training at different levels within a military career, but everyone gets it from day one. So how to communicate up and down an organization, how to have integrity, do the right thing when no one is looking and could necessarily prove that you did it or didn't do it. How to be ethical in the work that you do, how to even when everyone's trying to pull you in a different direction, how do you go in the direction that needs to be done, the direction you need to go. So all of those types of things, we practice it, we exercise it, we train for it, we get realistic opportunities to do it, obviously, with deployments around the world. So that training is from day one, and so that's a real benefit that you're going to get in terms of needing leaders to come from the ground up in your organization. So if you're convinced now that, okay, maybe I need to go back and relook at this, maybe I need to kind of tie this to a business strategy, because then I can start to tie it to, the results that I want to get and the ROI that I expect to get. And, what kind of budget am I going to need to be able to, bring this to reality, to be able to pipeline the way that I need to pipeline, to be able to market the way that I want to use the different sources and sourcing channels that I want to use. Great. And then that's where we want you to be at this point, is kind of rethinking how you're approaching this. But let's say now you've made the commitment to do this, or maybe you've already gotten started. You've already got some kind of a fledgling program going on. What are the two kind of biggest mistakes I see companies make early out of the gate in these types of programs? Number one is relying entirely too much on high tech. Recruiting military is a high touch endeavor. High touch works way better than high tech. And when I say high tech, here's some examples. Like, okay, we're going to start a military recruiting program. Let's invest $50,000 in getting a military skills translation tool added to our website. Let's invest in, some kind of a database that we can access where, there's AI that can pull out the right, resumes that are going to help us do all of this kind of matching. That's relying on high tech to do the work that high touch should be replacing. Having one-on-one conversations or one-to-many conversations with service members about what your company does, what your needs are, what the application process looks like, all that level of education is going to yield you far better results than relying on the technology to do it. And I'm not saying skills translators are bad, or going to career fairs is bad, or databases are bad. All of these things can be appropriate at some stage during the development of your program. It's just not necessarily where I would send my clients to do first, spend all the money there and then like sit back and wait for the resumes to fall out of the sky. That's generally not going to work in your favor. And if you do happen to get, resumes, because maybe you're a brand name that many people would recognize, and so they're like, oh, this is interesting, they're hiring military, then you don't know what to do with the resume when you get it, because the resume either isn't making it through the applicant tracking system because it's being screened out immediately because the keywords are not lining up, or if it somehow miraculously makes it through the applicant tracking system, then the recruiter doesn't understand and doesn't know how to align it and whether or not this person is qualified to be able to be advanced to hiring manager. Or maybe they do know how to read the resume and they do advance it, and the hiring manager doesn't know and understand, why an infantryman is applying for this operations supervisor position on the manufacturing floor. So that's kind of the stuff that we really have to work on first before you start making these big financial investments into tools and technologies and things like that. That can come a little bit later. The other mistake that I see companies make is when they're deciding they're going to do this, then the first thing that they do is, of course, they want to put someone in the position to do this. So I do applaud the interest in putting someone in the position to do this, rather than, hey, this is your part-time job on top of all the other stuff that you're doing. See what you can do about, recruiting military. Where I see the mistakes getting made is either we pick someone who's got maybe a good HR background, maybe they've been with the company already for a long time, they have an interest in recruiting military, maybe they're a military spouse or they are a veteran themselves, and they want to do well in the position, they're enthusiastic about it, but what they don't know is they don't know how to put a program together. And so they're just going to kind of go with what they know. And they might be like, I just need to go to all these career fairs. I need to go do all these different things. And then that's what's going to yield us, the talent that we're looking for. And it's like, well, not necessarily. It's good that you speak the language. It's good that you're comfortable in this environment. But this, throw spaghetti at a wall strategy on what career fairs to go to, what military bases to attend, should you even be doing that at this particular stage? Are you ignoring populations that actually would be really, really valuable for you to add to your strategy? For example, maybe your company is a federal contractor subject to the Office of Federal Contracts Compliance Programs, OFCCP oversight. Well, guess what? You're supposed to be doing outreach to protected classes of veterans, including veterans with disabilities. Does your strategy include anything about veterans with disabilities in it? Do you know all the different sourcing resources for veterans with disabilities? No? Okay, then that's the challenge of trying to put this program together, is you really kind of need to holistically look at this. And so sometimes we put someone in the position to run all of this that doesn't know how to build the program. And then the other, flip side of that is we put someone who's got maybe good programmatic, building experience, but they don't know the military. So they don't know that there are military bases that have career fairs. They don't know that there's all these different subpopulations, including student veterans, including, military spouses and all these different areas. So their program is not as robust as it could be. Maybe they're only focusing on transitioning military. And while that's a large population, 200,000 plus every year, every company focuses on that. So you're missing the bigger picture of the student veterans and the veterans with disabilities, the Guard and Reserve, and the larger veteran population to begin with. So your program isn't going to be as robust as it could be, and therefore it's not going to deliver the ROI that you're looking for it to deliver. And again, this is where you might come under the chopping block if your organization is looking to make cuts to budget into recruiting. So don't make these mistakes. Think really hard about how you're trying to build out these programs. When I'm talking to companies that are more mature in their veteran recruiting program, so let's say their program's been in existence for a couple years now, they're getting some really good results for the effort that they're doing, and that's fantastic. This is not the time to rest on your laurels then, because sometimes it's like, we're good, we figured out how to do this, we're getting plenty of veterans in there. The first mistake I see with those types of organizations is like, fantastic, you don't have a hard time recruiting military, you've got that right brand name that people recognize, or just you've really kind of put a real effort into the marketing piece of it. That's fantastic, your hiring numbers are really good. What does your retention look like? And then you hear crickets right in the background, because people aren't looking at the retention aspect. It's like, we did all of this work to bring people into the organization, And then we're like, our job is done. We brought them in, someone else needs to handle the talent engagement and the talent management and the retention and all of that other piece. You can't ignore the retention piece of it. Veterans, historically, as many surveys have been done, especially if this is their first job out of the military, tend to leave that first job within like 6 to 18 months. They couldn't quit while they were in the military. They had to fulfill their contract. But now that they work for a civilian organization where there's nothing stopping them from quitting, it's like, you know what? I'm not happy here. I don't see that I'm going to make progress in this company. I don't get it. I don't feel fulfilled. There's many things that I'm not addressing as part of my transition, and that this company is not helping me address as part of my transition. So you know what? I'm going to take my chances elsewhere, and I'm going to look for another job. So we need to focus on retention as much as we focus on the recruiting aspect for military. Another problem I see with companies that have the larger, more mature programs is, again, sometimes they're missing those sub elements. Maybe they don't have a spouse program and they would really benefit from a spouse program. Maybe they have been completely missing the boat on the veterans with disabilities. They're a federal contractor and they haven't been doing that, and they're not paying attention to that. So their compliance people every year fill out that form saying we're doing a terrible job of recruiting veterans with disabilities, when the veteran recruiting program team is like, we didn't even know we were supposed to be focused on that. So again, that can be a real problem. And then also they might be missing the boat, again, just if they're trying to be even more robust with their pipeline. There's all kinds of different specialized programs that you can put into place, like a DoD Skill Bridge program, like a workforce initiative, partnering with your local community colleges and trade schools, especially if you've got like skilled trade positions. That can be a really, really good thing to put in place. And companies aren't taking advantage of that. So it's like, okay, we know we need to hire, electricians out of the military. There's a lot, but it is a finite number. Wouldn't it be easier or just as effective to grow that talent yourself? If you find people who have the inclination to learn how to be an electrician, could you put an apprenticeship program together? Could you put a DoD Skill Bridge program together? Could you put a workforce initiative together? Grow your own talent rather than sitting around and waiting and hoping I find the electricians that I'm looking for. How much longer do you want to leave these jobs open versus doing something about it and growing your own talent? So that's the kind of more common mistakes that I would see larger organizations making. Let's see, what else did I have here? I got a couple notes written over here. When companies are first building out their programs, there are some common challenges that you're going to go through. And again, especially if you don't have, the background and the knowledge of putting, a history of putting these types of programs together, then it, again, might just be, we don't understand the military. We don't understand the types of talent that come out of the military. We don't understand what grade level we should be focused on. Should we be looking for enlisted members, officers? It depends on what skill set you're looking for. It depends on, what type of experience with telecommunications that you're looking for. Are you looking for the hands-on person? Are you looking for the program manager of people who do that kind of work? Because that's very different. And we have both in the military, but do you know what the difference is? And do you know where to find folks, with that right skill set and that right level of experience that you're looking for? Another common, challenge is, you just don't know how to engage this population. So I see oftentimes, we focus on the website, we put the skills translator on there, we put all our nice, good stock images on the website, and then we do, nice promotional flyers and things like that, and we make sure that we get recognized as a military-friendly employer and all this other kind of stuff. Again, high touch works way better than high tech. So what I'm not seeing is companies, making an effort to actually connect one-on-one or one-to-many with this population. If you're if you're an infantryman coming out of, 3 years of service in the Marine Corps, and you're looking at like Bank of America wants to hire you, or this insurance company wants to hire you, or this technology company wants to hire you, and you're going to be like, to do what? Because I don't see what I have that is of value to you. And they have skills that would be of value, but they may not realize that, because again, they don't necessarily know exactly all the skills that your company needs. They just kind of know the brand name, but not necessarily what kind of talent you're looking for. So there's a real education process that you're going to have to do here to be able to help service members see themselves working for your organization. And the good news is, if you decide to do, this level of education, we strongly recommend that you do, and we have lots of suggestions on ways that you can do that, that you're not doing it just for the military population. Because sometimes we get like, oh God, do I got to do all this just to hire military members? It's like, guess what? If you're doing all of this, who else is it going to benefit? It's going to benefit college graduate. People who have never, worked in a corporate environment also have a lot of the same kinds of questions. It's going to involve people who are making a career change. So maybe I worked in manufacturing and now I'm going to go work for technology. Well, guess what? They're going to need some of that same level of education to get them to come work for you. So if you create it once, there's many, many ways that you can reapply the effort that you've put into doing it for the veteran population. And then lastly, before we turn it on to questions that you might have, what is one emerging trend that I see right now with the veteran space? Tremendous amount of interest right now in the Department of Defense's SkillBridge program. Basically, it allows you to create sort of a 6-month internship for transitioning service members. You don't have to pay their salary. The government is still paying them. They're still considered an active duty member while they're coming to work for you. There's a lot of process that you have to go through to get approved to be a SkillBridge program. And there's, checks and balances within the system. So it's not something you're going to create overnight. Let's be real clear about that. And it's not something that's going to bring in, at least not the way it's conceived right now, it's not going to bring in, 200 candidates a year. But it is a way that you can bring in and sort of test drive service members who are, real close to what you're looking for, to be able to give those hiring managers a chance to see them operate in the wild, if you will, within your organization. So there's a lot of interest in SkillBridge programs right now. I'm real excited about it. SkillBridge has been around for a while, but the level of interest in SkillBridge has really skyrocketed over the last year. So that's a really good thing. So with that, I will turn it back over to Hunter and the rest of the Power to Fly team. Are there any questions that are queued up? If not, we can certainly fill the next 5 minutes with more content, but I just want to make sure that I'm not running over when people might have had a question that they wanted to ask. All right, so we're getting close to the end of our time, so maybe I'll just do like 1 or 2 more points that we could do. So let's see, what else are some good examples of things that folks can do? Oh, looks like someone's connecting in here. So yeah, what are some other things that I would recommend companies do? I recommend companies, when you're planning and you're designing sort of what your strategy is going to look like, I really think that you need to think big, and that means look at all those different demographic groups and see if there's applicability to adding all or at least some of those different demographic groups to your overall strategy. Again, do you need a military spouse program? Do you need a student veteran program? Add all that stuff in there. And then start small, because again, it can be very, very overwhelming. All of those different demographics have their own sourcing channels that you're going to need to work through. They've got their own pipelining type of programs that you may want to apply for and get approved for, and then become a company that's allowed to recruit from that particular population. So think big and start small, but you have to keep moving, because there's always going to be hesitations and roadblocks and things like that that are going to keep people from letting you do what you need to do. You as the program manager are also the champion for this program, and you need to have other champions in your organization, your business unit leaders, and this is not just a talent acquisition HR thing. You need actual business unit leadership to be the champions for the veteran program in your organization. Help them see the business case. Make sure that they are crystal clear on what it is that is trying to be accomplished here, how it serves the needs of the business, how it addresses the talent pain points that they're feeling right now. I don't have enough, machine technicians. I don't have enough phlebotomists. That's a pain point for them. And yes, it's HR's job to solve, but help them understand that, as we're putting this initiative together, we can bring in a lot more of the talent that we're looking for, and it happens to be military talent. So help them see that so that they're supportive of what you're trying to do, so that they're championing what you're trying to do. If you end up trying to put one of these like skill bridge programs together or workforce initiatives together, you'll find one or two business unit leaders that would really benefit from having a program like that, so they could really get behind it and help with the money aspect of it, help with the budget aspect, because you're going to be solving their problems for them when you put that kind of a program together. So with that, I think we're right at the end of our time. So Hunter or team, whatever you'd like to do to transition off of this, I'm thankful for the opportunity.
Thank you. We're so grateful to have you here, Lisa, and we hope to have you back.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Take care.